Hi, back again into another Ether update, or an Ether update. Hopefully a bit of a quicker one than the Bitcoin one. There's a bit less to cover on this anyway. So we made it to my red circle. Very exciting. So again, the reason I was looking at this. Again, let's hide these alert lines. Why is it not working? There we go. Okay, so monthly supply is what I was looking at on this, similar to Bitcoin. That was the original. Well, there was a 3-week supply, just a bit lower, so I was looking initially from there, and then the monthly supply coming in slightly higher, so that was generally the purpose of the red circle. From a fib perspective of this lower wave, it was the 61 to 70 area on the linear, and on the log it was on the 78 of that, and then also between the 61 to 70 of the bigger down move. So again, there was some decent confluence there, and on top of that we had this channel which has basically hit the channel highs on that. I've quite liked this channel throughout because you can see it's done quite a good job of support, resistance, resistance, support, resistance, resistance, and then come back as support now, and now we're at the upper end of it. So obviously on top of this, the difference between this and Bitcoin is that we did get that wick down into that 3-day zone, and again that's why I'm looking for that first entry in Bitcoin that I've highlighted in the other video if you watched that. So we got a wick down into there. There's a whole mess of 5 days and 4 days and things in here which was just becoming thoroughly confusing, so again I didn't really choose to long in here. I looked for that early short. Also we had a short, this was a daily supply, and I think I only had it in because it aligned with some other things. Then there was a daily supply retest in here which gave a decent move, but then that still held support for the swing fail of the range before the bigger drop. So weekly, not surprising, we've got this nice move off that level. Came back in, held the range, so you know we're basically looking for this range to be held if we get a retest. So slow move down off here. We've made daily supply, not a good one, but it's there. We've got this 12-hour supply at the top of here, which is where I'm looking for that retest entry. This is still quite early because obviously we haven't really got a demand that we can show we're breaking on the higher time frames until we get all the way down here. But this is still sort of relatively early to look for shorts. But again, we've got a high, we've got a low, so I'm looking for that lower high, ideally in here. And then maybe we'll at least get a move down to here. Below we made a weekly demand. So like I say, it's sort of similar to Bitcoin, except it has the breakout, whereas Bitcoin swing fell back inside the zone. So again, still in a bullish structure on this, but we have got 5 waves up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, we could see that bigger correction of the whole move. And if we do, so my initial potential long entries on the mid time frames would be this weekly demand if it holds here, and again holding back in this range. Could bounce off the top of the range, it's just not a way I trade. So if it does, you can look for longs, you know, even from the higher 4-hour, 12-hour zones there, but I'd be initially looking for the weekly. If we are going to do the 5-wave correction of the whole thing, I'm looking at lower, and again with like Bitcoin, we've got a 3-month, a new 3-month demand. So in the case of Ether, we've got this new 3-month demand. We've got a 3-month down here that's untested, which is another zone I would look at for a long if we revisit. But we also had a 2-month higher, which is why we held higher lows through here. So we may not visit that 3 months down the bottom. if this is going to keep moving. My real concern with Ether, I guess, is that I do find this quite corrective. I mean, we did have a good candle over the last week, obviously. That was a solid move, and the Ether BTC is another question itself, but this is all very corrective. So this is the first move out of being kind of quite corrective, and it's gone straight into supply. So again, we just need to see a bit more of this and a bit more, ideally some consolidation through here before a move up, if this is actually an impulse that's going to hold this breakout. Not much more to be said on that. So yeah, like I say, possible short for low time frame or scalpers in 12-hour up there. And Ether is less inclined than Bitcoin to stop hunt. Now I've said that it probably will stop hunt, but you never know. If we continue higher, then we do have, like, I would just keep an eye on those sort of similar levels to Bitcoin, you know, if it's going to go to the same structural levels of Bitcoin. We have, just check that is actually the monthly. So that's a monthly level at the orange dash. And then the next monthly level, like if it really went to fully where Bitcoin is up a lot higher at 35.8, and a yearly level in the 70 fib right above that. So there are opportunities for it to go higher, of course, but monthly supply now, and if Bitcoin and the rest of the market is ready to come down, then we could see the drop from here. So again, starting to look for shorts without confirmation at this point. And then, yeah, if we see some significant drop that takes out demand, then we can start to look for better, more macro shorts on the higher time frames. What else? I did have a whole bunch of CME gaps through here. There were loads, but I've taken them out because frankly they're not actually that helpful. Yeah, I guess one thing, like I said, on Bitcoin is I know it keeps putting those. I swear I delete these red lines on a regular basis and it keeps putting them back, but anyway. Again, for me, not out of the realms of possibility that this is just a bear flag. Going back up, testing supply before a bigger drop down into here. From a TA perspective, not from a crypto maximalist ETF dreams perspective. I did read something about the Ethereum ETF decision coming up. I can't remember when it was though, I'll have to check. I think maybe February. I feel like late February or late January, but I could be wrong. But yeah, so maybe that'll, you know, propel this higher into supply and to take out some of the stops up here, since that seems to be a bit of a trend lately. I think it is slightly different to Bitcoin up here though. I think, you know, this move here did take out stops from this weekly, so it isn't necessarily going to do the same as what Bitcoin did. And also, obviously, if Bitcoin's going to go down, then this is probably going to go down as well. Okay, so the other thing, obviously, the big thing is, I think there's not much to add on Korea or CME. You know, they both, or Korea had gone higher because it already was higher because of the weakness in the dollar. So Korea has gone into a 2-month supply up there. Don't think the US dollar even has that. No, so Korea had a much cleaner 2-month supply up here. So again, not overly surprising it's visited that, and not overly surprising it's started rejecting from that. And you can see, like, relatively the US dollar pair is a bit lower in the structure, with the Korea pair being sort of somewhere up here. Okay, then, so the Ethereum pair. So yeah, as you've probably seen in my last few updates, I've been doing a lot of comparison with this kind of area, because this is the area that the wick here was longer, but this is the area where it sort of was trying to break support. We did kind of get the down move that I wanted, but obviously in this case, so we picked up, there's actually a 3-day demand in here that it's picked up for the bigger move and the swing failure. And like I said, there's a lot more liquidity grabbing, I think, than there ever used to be. It would go down more into genuine demand, whereas now the TA is moving more to stop hunts, and particularly on Ether as well. Like Bitcoin always had a bit more of that, but Ether had less, so I guess that's not horrifically surprising. But you know, and to compare to this, you know, this is obviously quite different. It's a lot less volatile than the volatility than what we had in 2018-19. So this, at this point, fell off a cliff and went lower and went into monthly demand down here before starting the up move, which is ideally what I wanted here. So now obviously, so we did have a move through, I think there was a monthly supply in there. No, not a monthly supply. We've had a move through 2-week and weekly supply, but they were weak because they were in this little local range down here. So it's come up straight through there. It has closed the weekly above, hasn't closed the weekly above the trend line. And again, like I said in the Bitcoin video, like I tend to use the first two highs. You know, if I extended that out, then it's clearly hitting the exact trend line. It has come out on the linear. Oh, what's going on? Oh, I think I've still got the... okay, yeah, so it's come out just on the linear, but not on the log. So I've still got the Ether and the Bitcoin prices on this because I was just doing a lot of comparison with the PA here and what happens when, you know, like, I haven't been able to actually judge that. I'll show you a little bit of that, although that'll make this video longer than I wanted. But I guess I was trying to ascertain whether, you know, if this makes a low, so this made a low when these were at low, when the US dollar pairs of Bitcoin and Ether were both at a low. So I was trying to figure out, you know, if Ether Bitcoin's at a low, but Ether and BTC are potentially at highs, what happens, you know, and i.e. if we were at the same 2019 B wave followed by C wave and COVID dump, like what the Ether pair was looking like. And, you know, there is the possibility that, you know, this is the pump that we're kind of seeing here, you know, which was like the last hurrah for Ether and Bitcoin. But then we did get one final move after that. And again, I highlighted that in the Bitcoin video. You know, it is possible, like looking at the structure and comparing back to this point in time, that we could get another move if structure was similar. And then obviously the other option is, you know, are we sort of just following this type pattern, or are we, you know, is our Bitcoin and Ethereum just breaking out into a new bull run, and therefore we're in this type of area on the chart? But again, at this point we've started making higher lows, so it's much clearer on Ether BTC that's going up, whereas now, yeah, it's just done, you know, a swing fail of the lows and it hasn't broken any significant structure to the upside yet. So let's put the lines back on. So we're kind of holding this trend line by a hair there. It kind of just tried to close below, but then managed to get back above. So yes, it's very possible, you know, and Ether Bitcoin is hard because you can look at it and it just goes, when it wants to go, it just goes. So in a perfect world, we will get an entry for a long, if it's going to be long. So, okay, so what I was mulling over earlier and we're talking about in the chat was that, okay, so we've got this major uptrend and this is a correction of this major up move. And again, like, you know, how much could that correct if this is just going to continue up with a new wave? And again, like for me, I always prefer it to come back into demand, so I would have preferred it back down here. And I think, you know, there's a monthly there, and then there's a 3-month in the middle, and then there's the 2-month, another monthly at the 61.8. So obviously that's preferred entries in the golden pocket. This is still an aggressive entry. I think even on linear, yeah, even if we go on the linear chart, the fib isn't quite, like 61 is still lower than where we've got to, even if it was sort of more aggressive from a linear chart perspective. So I don't know, I'm not overly convinced. But then, you know, and then here we've got this local downtrend, which has just held a swing fail of the lows. So possibly if it's going to swing fail the lows into this 3-day demand, then we can see it take out the high of that move. But it's still very early days for that. If this is making a trend change, then we need to see it come down. And I think, oh yeah, I did put some lines on this when we were looking earlier. So we've got this down move, broke support, retested, broke support. This looks strong, but it's still a range, and this is still the down move, you know. And even if you did it on a lower time frame and you say this is your down move, you know, it still needs to break here or here to confirm, you know, an uptrend on that time frame. And we're now at the first weekly supply since this bounce, and that's pausing the price at least. So again, yeah, it's just far too early. We need to see a lot more from here. And in a perfect world, we get the retest somewhere around here, closer to the 61 fib preferable, but then, you know, there's this weekly 2-week demand that's flipped in here. And yeah, we're looking at that kind of golden pocket area for a retest. But yeah, while it's a very strong move, and, you know, like I say, it's tough because, like, when we do get these moves, they can just run. Excuse me, you know, even here, you know, it consolidated a bit, didn't really come back down. You know, preferred entry there would have been here, and it never gave it. But just be conscious that, you know, we also had strong move from here, and then it died. And then we had a strong move from here, which is possibly more where we are now, although the move is bigger. And then it just died, you know, it never survived the retest. So, excuse me. So one of my group pointed out we have broken, I think it's the weekly, close that one down, but yeah, so we have a weekly trend line, which you can see this is cleanly about the weekly trend line. So we do have an RSI trend line break, which can precede a price trend line break. So it is possible that this is just showing us in advance, but again, still just want to see that retest and or a bit more PA develop in here before leaping into a long at supply. Or, you know, I wouldn't trade this particular pair. You know, and it does have a nice possibility of short squeezing through here, but then we do have, like I say, a weekly supply right there. I think there's a monthly, there's a 2-month in there. Excuse my coughing. So, let me hide some of my, I just have too many lines, that makes it hard. There's a 2-month here, which isn't a great one because it's just a little doji candle. And then there's, you know, monthly supply here that got tested, monthly supply here that got tested, and then yeah. So we do have a lot of supply that's already been tested, which is nice. If we make a monthly demand, and we've still got 2 weeks to do that, then even better for this. But yeah, just want to say a bit more on this, to think it's going to do another big up move. And then, you know, similarly, if it does do that big up move, is that really going to be, you know, okay, that's Ether being stronger than Bitcoin, but does that just mean that Bitcoin dumps more? Which, if the ETF goes off the boil, is entirely possible. And yeah, I still just see this as fairly corrective and just don't really like, again, looking for longs when we're in supply, and that's where we are right now. So yeah, is that a bit shorter than my last video? Hopefully. But yeah, the too long didn't read version. Look for a short in the 12-hour supply there, look for a long on this weekly there. If we break this zone, then we can start looking for bigger, higher time frame shorts. But even that, like, to some extent will be challenging, because, you know, even if this did throw a giant red candle down into here, we're still just going straight into 3-month demands. So it's not a, I don't know, this is not something I massively want to trade, because it's just, you know, when it's that tight between a monthly supply here and a 3-month demand here, you know, and then the other 3-month demand below it, it's not, I mean, yeah, it's going to give you good risk to reward if you can get in on the low time frames, but the high time frames aren't going to do much in risk to reward. You know, if you trade the 3-month and your stop's all the way down here and you enter up at that green cross, it's going to have to move significantly higher in order for you to get 2R, and probably take about a year. We shall see. But those are some trades for things to look at, things to watch if you want to. Yeah, that 3-month down there, the 3-month here, but again, just huge zones. Don't think there's much more to say on that. Signing out.